All right, I wanted to do a video today talking about EMF protection and why you'll need Orgonite in your life. Why should you buy this over that? I've had a few questions pertaining to why would I go with yours, why would I go with Orgonite in general. So first of all, we are totally surrounded by EMF. We know that, right? I mean, even even if you live off the grid, that might be the only way to get out of this, but who's living off the grid these days? So we have EMF everywhere. There's countless studies showing that the current Wi-Fi, the 3G, 4G, is carcinogenic, and poor rats that they test on, they're getting tumors, and people, who, if you, gosh, there's a guy at my gym who puts his phone in a beanie, under his beanie on the back of his head, and I just want to, and he's all ripped and everything, and so he thinks he knows what he's doing, but I want to be like, you might not want to do that. You might get a tumor. So anyways, we find ourselves in this society where we've been, this technology has been introduced to us, and it's part of our life now. Everywhere you look, you see people staring at their phones, and I try to take breaks from social media. I try to get off my phone because I feel like I'm not being very productive when I'm sitting there just staring at my phone. And but my business relies on me being interactive, and I think eventually we're going to have to get back to flip phones. This protest I was at, this butcher shop recently, someone took a video of me, and it's very grainy because it was taken, I think it was taken from like a super archaic flip phone or one of those other, just real old ones, and it got me thinking that I think we're going to have to go back to that, because the way that they are tracking everything, and everything is about data collection, we're going to have to go back to the simpler phones, simpler technology, wired technology. We're going to have to get back there. Silicon Valley, and all these, Google, FedBook, Amazon, they are just closing in. They're all sharing our data with USA Inc., the government, and they're selling it, and it's just all this, it's getting out of control. I think we can kind of sense that it's getting out of control, and then with 5G coming on, it's going to be even more crazy. If people, people are going to buy smartphones, and they're going to bring smart devices into their house. My neighbor, I was saying, you really should switch your smart meter out. I've told him a few times. I showed him the readings, and it's like just talking to the wall. And I said, if you have any smart appliances, you probably might want to get rid of them. He's like, yeah, we have a smart TV. And so we know that people are going to get smart appliances. We know people are going to go for the 5G phones because they're either just not informed, or they are brainwashed into thinking that it's a good technology, because technology, if it was bad for us, they would tell us, and they do tell us it's bad for us. They do say, don't, hold your phone away from your body, and they have, they know this is carcinogenic. They know that this stuff, it's very toxic, this wireless radiation. We know that, they know that, but they've got us addicted. And here we find ourselves 2019 with 5G on deck, and small cells being installed in our towns and neighborhoods, and our city councils not able to fight back because of the 1996 Telecommunications Act. And there are states like New Hampshire who are creating study sessions where they're basically just looking into this to find the safety. And I wish all states could do that, but it's really hard here in California, because a lot of our politicians are just corrupt, and they're connected with the same families, and so it's really hard. That's why we have these mandatory vaccination laws in the works, SB 276, AB 262, and everyone should watch the movie Vaxxed. And anyway, so we find ourselves up against this dystopian, Orwellian society where we're being tracked and monitored and radiated, and the smart grid and the 5G, the Internet of Things, this is what they're presenting to us. And we know that most people will say, yes, I want that because everything is faster, better, quicker. The thing with 5G is it's about data. So it's pulsing a lot more data at a time. So you can download 100 movies in 6 seconds while you're taking a dump. You know, great. We really need that. We really need more people watching movies and walking around in public, you know. So it's about being able to get more data from one point to the other. It's not about better connection. Like I was talking to my neighbor, he was like, oh, my connection farts out a little bit here and there. And I was like, well, it's not about connection. The connection is fine, really. I mean, that would be the only way that they would be able to justify putting in a higher frequency would be to fill in a gap in coverage. But everywhere that, you know, I check my planning commission. You can check it with your planning commissioners when they get new incoming applications from cell tower, from telecommunications companies for cell towers. And you can go test at that site where they're proposing to put it up if there's a gap in coverage. There will never be a gap in coverage because it's not about filling gaps in coverage. This is about a $1 trillion rollout of 5G that these companies are going to make a lot of money. And it's not just about greedy corporations. It's about who's controlling those greedy corporations. They want us tracked, monitored, radiated, sick, dumb. They want to keep their eyes on the slaves that are awakening. And there's always an insidious reason behind this technology. It's not just greedy corporations. I mean, listen to some David Icke videos. He's got this. He won't touch certain topics, but he's got it pretty dialed in as far as what's going on behind the scenes and who's controlling. Like as he says, the spider web, the spider at the center of the web that's controlling the outward flow. So it's a very evil and insidious spider in the middle of the web, and they want to track us because they know we're waking up and we've been using the internet, the technology for good. So, not to go off on a tangent, but this is happening. This scary technology is happening, and you might ask yourself, well, what can I do about it? Well, you can stay on your city council for a study session. Pound them and say, hey, we need to get a study session. There's no safety testing. We cannot roll this out. So that's what I've been trying to do. It might be futile, but I have to do something because they're just not educated, and the money from telecom pays their salaries. This grant money. You know, I could tell stories about what I've heard at these meetings. How on July 4th they were so happy that their fire chief had given 59 tickets for fireworks, illegal fireworks, because they generated $59,000 in revenue, $1,000 a ticket, and they were kissing his ass. Oh, you did such a great job. Blah, blah. That's the only time I've seen them happy and showing like any sort of humanity, because this guy generated $59,000 in revenue for them. And they said a couple times, it's not about the revenue. It's really not. It's about safety. Yeah, right. It's all about the money. And these guys are dead inside. When I'm talking to them and I look up and I see they're just like looking at me like they don't want to hear it. They're dead inside. They're all about money. And so that's why they look at me, because I'm not giving them any money. They look at me like I'm crazy because I'm not giving them any money, but telecom is. And so that's why they want to set up 5G. Okay, so I'm ranting, but I wanted to do this video today because why should you get Orgonite? Well, we know that tourmaline, shungite, and a lot of other crystals, gems, minerals will protect you because they have a great ability to convert energy. Well, here's the thing. You got to find someone who you trust, who you know, who makes Orgonite correctly, who is virtuous and you know that is not going to just give you something that's a bunch of stuff thrown in. Crystals aren't really programmed or charged or cleansed, and they just want to make a buck because everyone's making Orgonite because that's the new age woo-woo thing, right? If you do that, you might find something that will make you a little skeptical of Orgonite because you might not have something that works. And you might not notice a difference in sleep, or your plants might not be growing better, and you might do a water test, and you might not see the vortex. And you might that might give you a bad taste in Orgonite, and you might just say, well, I'm just going to go get some tourmaline or shungite. And you could do that, but when you there's tourmaline right there, all these powders and accumulator fields right here, that's got shungite powder, and then there's tourmaline in here, and then there's smaller chunks of tourmaline. So my point is, when you have these protective crystals in an Orgonite matrix, Orgone matrix, it's going to be more powerful because they're constantly being squeezed. So the crystal is inside, the resin squeezes on it, it's constantly squeezed from then on out. Okay, so it's constantly activating any piezoelectric properties. and tourmaline, topaz, rhodozite, and quartz. When you constantly squeeze on them, their properties are activated, okay? And now when you add a pulse, we've talked about the pulse before, I think the pulse is necessary to combat 5G because they are upping the frequency, right? So in the past when we had 3G and 4G, or currently, a powerful orgonite pyramid like this one would do really good, would fortify your home, okay? But they're upping the output of their devices, their military weapons. They've never been safety tested, and they know they're going to be extremely harmful. they're not idiots. So they're upping their stuff. We have to up our stuff. So the pulse, the Nubian equalizer here, I offer it in Chembuster version where you can ground it and you get a little bit more power from the earth, because the earth is a natural electrical, the Schumann resonance, it's natural electric, negatively charged, healing sort of energy, which is why I love it and am a proponent of getting and grounding and earthing as much as you can, okay? And so we add a pulse, a 15 hertz pulse, okay? You turn on the pulse. I have pulse devices all over my house, and I leave them on all the time. I have some in my yard. I don't leave them out in the sun all day. You don't want to leave these devices in the sun all day. A couple hours is fine. They can discolor if they're in the sun all day. So keep them in moderate temperatures, grounded. I put them up on this just for the video, but you want to keep the pulse on as much as possible. I've noticed when I leave the pulses on, sometimes I'm recharging the batteries and I don't have the pulse on. My dreams are not as clear, but when I turn that pulse on, it's like next level dreams. I can remember everything. Everything is clarified. I'm remembering dreams a few days later. So that just tells me that the ether is even more clear with the pulse. And so I think the pulse is really necessary. They're a little more pricier, but you're going to need it. If we only had 3G and 4G and that's it, we just have these macro towers to deal with, I really think we could be fine with gifting tactical tower busters to those cell towers and having a nice pyramid, okay? So these pyramids are like, this is how I equate them to. You want to get radiation absorbing plants in your house, but think about it this. If say you have a nice spearmint, or aloe vera, or a big cactus, right? That's going to be great in the centerpiece of your home, in your living room, right? It's going to be great for absorbing radiation. Now imagine if you have that, but you have a bunch of other smaller ones dispersed throughout your yard and each room of the house. Now you're going to be fortified. So you're protected, but then you're fortified when you have multiples. And that's how I equate, that's why I make the family pack, because you can grid your yard and be fortified with these devices that create this Orgone life force field that converts negative energy. Okay, so think about that. If you're looking to purchase something, you can get some crystals. They'll be good, but they're going to protect your person, and it's more for just in your pocket. You can put them on your Wi-Fi router, and they're going to be fine. They're going to absorb that radiation just like plants will. So you could just have tourmaline and shungite and get away with it, and some EMF or radiation absorbing plants, and you could get away with it and be fine. But if you want more power, you want that piezoelectric activation of the properties of those crystals, get an orgonite pyramid. Now, you want to get the ones with the atomized metals. We've talked about that a bunch. I think the makers who don't use atomized metals, it's still going to give off a field. It's still going to be a functional device. Okay, so I'm not knocking those if they don't use atomized metals. I'm sure that they're still going to have a nice little field because you still have that piezoelectricity. But when you have the atomized metals, the metals, what Wilhelm Reich found is the metals accumulate and repel. So the more of those points you have, the more surface area you're covering, the more you're accumulating and repelling, like this, okay? The more you're accumulating and repelling at the same time. So accumulating and repelling, and it's like think about a water filter. We've talked about this. It goes up and converts and accumulates, repels, distributes. These things they're hard to understand if you're just now learning about orgonite, how it works. But get the ones that have more surface area, atomized metals, and with a pulse if you can. If not, get something that you feel comfortable with. It'll still give off a nice field for you. But my point is, with with these higher frequencies, you're going to need something a little bit more powerful. Okay, so first of all is you can do your own tests. You can just get shungite, just get tourmaline, and then get a pyramid on top of that and see how you feel. It's all about how you feel. This is not about your five senses and using detector. We don't have instruments to measure this energy. This is the etheric energy. It's a spiritual energy. Okay, so you can't measure the spirit world yet. And that's what they want, that's what scientism wants us doing, is just living in our five senses and not in touch with our spiritual nature, which we are totally spiritual beings. And that's what they want to get you entrapped in, is just, if I can't see, touch, taste, smell it, it doesn't exist. Okay? And there is something to prayer. That's why I make these videos. And I have this whole process that I am proud of, which is charging and programming and cleansing the crystals with tones and prayer and frequencies, and that comes from me, comes from my heart, my spiritual essence, which is divine, and yours is too. And there's something really powerful with that. And I don't feel complete unless I've said a nice long prayer in the morning, asking for protection, wisdom, and guidance, because we need it. We absolutely need it. We can't just do this on our own. We can't do it on our own. There's way too much evil going on right now, way too much deception, and way too many people that are deceived and fooled. And they're most of us. Everywhere you look, it's like it's like they live. Most of these people are just totally deceived, and like the Matrix, they're going to defend this system. So you're going to come off as the crazy one. The more you try to convince them that they're crazy. It's easier to convince someone that they've been fooled, and it's easier to fool someone than to convince someone that they've been fooled. That's a Mark Twain quote, and I find that's very true. So you're going to have to use your spiritual powers right now. It's not just about these devices, because that's more of five senses. It's about these devices and using your spiritual powers. And I put a lot of my spiritual essence into these devices. This is what I do for a living. I quit the corporate world. I just couldn't do that anymore. Variety of factors, a lot of things going on, but this is what I do full time. I just met a buyer down at Amy's drive-thru, this vegan, organic fast food joint that's really good, and it like, I was so happy. I just wanted to talk for hours, and this is what I love doing. This is what I do. I would love to get some Orgone energy devices. I try to stay away from the term orgonite. It's been trademarked. I would love to get some of my devices in your home, because I know that you will dream and sleep and feel better. And you can do tests on the pieces. I give you some free tower busters. Do a water test. Put water, freeze it overnight with a small freebie underneath. See if a vortex comes up, and then do a control sample the next day without a device, and do a plant test, and just and if you're very skeptical about these devices in general, and you don't want to spend money, which is totally understandable, make your own. I have a video called how to make, basic instructional video on how to make Orgone energy devices, and I made it a few years ago, and 40, 50 pounds ago. I always mention that because I watched that video and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was sloppy looking. Mary Jane, my dog's in it, and it'll get you started. And I've learned a lot since then, so I would make a different video now, but it'll get you started on how to make tower busters, and you can grid your own yard, gift towers, see how you feel, see how you sleep, do plant tests, do water tests. That's how I know this stuff works. I've done the tests. When I first started making it, this chembuster right back here, it rained for 3 days, 3 weeks straight in the middle of a drought. I've said this a million times, and I'm not saying my device caused that, but it definitely didn't hurt. And then once we started dreaming and sleeping and feeling better, and my coworkers who I was giving this stuff to started dreaming and sleeping and feeling better, I knew we had something. And then I did the water test, and then I did plant tests, and it passed all the tests. And so that's how I know we have something. And then now with these pulse devices, I know that we have something as well, because you're adding more input to the matrix. When you have more input to these devices, you're going to get more output. Okay, so we've talked about how they work. It's kind of like an etheric filter, like a water filter, Orgone water filter, but for ether. And when you add stimulation to that, you're going to have a greater output. So the neighbor is starting to do his thing now, and so I'm going to sign off. We'll see how this video went, and if you have any questions, DM me, and hopefully this resonates with you. We have a mission to fulfill here. We have a mission to fulfill. We have some evil that's infected our earth, and it's convinced most of the population to go stray from their nature and to forget their humanity, forget their spiritual nature, and we find ourselves in this artificial intelligence, technocracy, transhumanist kind of world where it's going that direction, and it's really scary because most people don't see it. The people that do see it are labeled nut jobs. And there's a lot of censoring going on. This movie was pulled from Vimeo and Amazon, and it's an absolute correlation between MMR and autism when given between 12 and 18 months, and especially affecting boys, and black boys especially. So we are living in insane times, but insane times, being in a dualistic world means it's also, things are getting making more sense to a lot more people. So it's an amazing time to be alive, and it's a very frustrating time to be alive. And if we want to survive this, we're going to have to fight, and we're going to have to protect our energy and protect our auric field and protect our families. And we have to get devices that work, and that's why I make these. That's why I've dedicated my life to these, because I know they work, I know they help, and you can't prove it on a detector. We do not have gadgets to measure a spiritual force, a spiritual essence, a spiritual energy like ether, prana, chi, ki, okay? Now you can measure it based on how it affects biological organisms and water, which is an excellent conductor of life force. So water tests. What I believe in is water tests, plant tests, if animals gravitate towards them, and how humans feel and sleep. That's how you prove these devices. So people are always asking for proof. You're not going to get it. You're not going to get it. Okay, I don't care what kind of gadget they have out there. I don't trust those gadgets. Okay, I know that this is a spiritual energy, and you measure spiritual energy through sort of like emotions and life force growth. If plants grow stronger, you know, they have more life force. If you are emotionally feeling better and sleeping better and dreaming better, it's because you're uplifted with more life force. If water is showing a vortex, it's because it's uplifted with life force. It's, you know, like Wilhelm Reich was studying like emotional. When people had cancer, it was because the energy was stagnated, and they had emotional trauma that they weren't able to get out. Wilhelm Reich had emotional trauma he wasn't able to get out. That's why he was so attracted to studying the emotions and the orgasm and life force. So we're in crazy times, really crazy times, really scary times. But just remember that everything's an opportunity for growth. So this is an ultimate test right now, and it's a test of our mind, our will, our spirit. And we have to protect all of them, and we can do that with these devices. And with 5G on deck, we have to fight it. And the pulse devices, in my opinion, are going to be the best protection at this point. And we're going to make, when you connect them with the earth, you're adding more reinforcements, more good energy. So in my opinion, the most powerful device I make is the pulsed mini chem busters. And they look nice too. I try to make them aesthetically pleasing. And they're going to be good even if you don't have a yard. They're good to just ground in your house and turn on the pulse as much as you can. Get a 3-battery recharger where you can continue to just cycle the 9-volt batteries and just have that pulse on all the time. Give it a little sun, give it a little moon, and interact with it and love it. You know, love water. You know, these crystals have been programmed with. I always say a prayer when I put them in the water. You know, I ask for protection and wisdom and guidance to be instilled into these crystals. So when they get into your devices, that energy is amplified. And it sounds new age, woo-woo, but I enjoy it. I enjoy doing that. I enjoy making these as powerful as possible. And I know that you can only make these as powerful as possible if you put your spiritual essence in it and your spiritual energy in it and your intent. Your intention is everything. It's those words you're writing, the sounds you're making, the tones, it's all intention. So it's not so much the word of love being stronger than hate, it's just the intention behind it is one of love and life and life force. So So just remember that that these devices will help, but it's also your intention and how you are creating the energetic field around yourself that's going to shape your reality and that's going to affect that water and those crystals. It's your intent. We are so much more powerful than we've been led to believe. There's a lie in the middle of belief. So we are the ones we've been waiting for. We are incredibly powerful. This time was made for us. We were made for these times. The ones who are awakening, we need you to step up. And if you're skeptical of this technology, like I said, make your own. See how they work. But I'm telling you, the mixture of crystals, gemstones, minerals, a catalyzing resin, and metals and metal powders is magical when it's combined in the right one-to-one elements of inorganic to organic elements, resin to metals. Once you have that, you're going to accumulate the energy, the surrounding ether, and you're going to be able to convert it with Ormus superconductors and powerful minerals, crystals, and gemstones that have the ability to convert and transform negative energy. They have the ability to do that. That's why people wear bracelets with crystals and gems on and stuff like that. But what we're doing is making it even stronger. That is one of my points here. Is that's great if you have, like, you know, these EMF protection devices. I'm seeing that they have, like, I look at some of these and they have silver and sand. Okay, well, silver and sand are just two of my elements, and a lot of artists make them a lot more elements too. Like, you can see the silver and gold, and then there's sand in here, and then there's quartz sand up here. So if you're going to buy an EMF protection device because you're skeptical of Orgonite, know what's in it, and then compare that to what's in an Orgone device, and you'll find that the Orgone device, if it's constructed correctly, will have a lot of those elements, way more elements, way more power. The bigger the devices they are, the more powerful they will be. So that's why I love this amulet. It's my favorite amulet. I feel very, I can't explain it. I can't put it into words. Whenever I go in public, I feel protected, and I feel totally immune to any frequencies, negative frequencies, anything. So I recommend this one or the large Ankh if you're around 5G or if you live in the city. You don't mind a little bit of a heavier amulet. I recommend this one, but the other ones are good as well. It's just not going to have the strongest field that these little bigger ones have, but it's still going to protect you. So it's kind of an unknown technology at this point, and there's been a smear campaign against it. My Etsy site was attacked. You know, I've had one bad review on my Etsy site. I think that was the person who left that review was an agent, to be honest with you. They were very sketchy, and it was because of the device was bad finish. So I got 3 stars. Out of 140 reviews on Etsy, I have 1 3-star, the rest are 5-star, yet Etsy just lists my shop as having 3 stars as an average. So, and they also removed 5 of my listings in accordance with the Nuclear Radiation Regulatory Commission. So, can't make this stuff up. So we're being censored, we're being attacked with frequencies because we're amazingly powerful beings, and the devices we're creating are amazingly powerful. And it's not about ego. It's about what works, and what works requires your participation and your energy, your auric field, your ether. Your intentions. If we can factually prove, like Masaru Emoto proved, that your intentions can affect water positively or negatively, and these healing tones, solfeggio frequencies, and 528 and 432 and 7.83, all these nice tones, those can affect water crystals to form these sacred geometric patterns. And we know that intention behind that music, whereas heavy metal will be like distorted, right? I like metal a little bit, but I would rather have some sort of soothing, healing tone that's going to affect the crystals and the water around me in a positive way. And I think that's how we win this. We win this in using our spiritual powers, and that's because that's what we are. We have to be ourselves, and we can't get caught up in being these 5 senses, scientism, just a human being. We are a spiritual being and a human avatar, and we have to Remember that, because they want you to forget that. They want you to forget who you are. They want to flip everything that's natural and normal, the way it should be, up on its head and normalize that in so many areas. And this is a satanic agenda. It's a non-human agenda. As crazy as that sounds, but it's an agenda that's coming from a very dark, evil place. And you fight dark, evil forces with your light and life force and your spiritual power. And so you have to uplift yourself and turn off the TV and research and get out there and be an activist and do what you can to activate your spiritual forces and get some devices that will activate the ether in you and give you better sleep and dreams, and eat right, get on a good regimen of just putting life in your body and clean water, and you will start to decalcify and feel better and come into your own as a spiritual being who's very powerful and has the ability to convert negative energy into positive, like these devices. We have a lot in common with crystals and water. We're 70% water, and our pineal gland, our seat of our soul, the eyes are the gateway to the soul, and the soul, they say, is right there. The seat of the soul is your pineal gland, and that's the Native Americans, the elders say that that's a crystal. You have a crystal in your brain. And if that crystal calcifies due to fluoridated water and bad food and TV, then you're not going to be a spiritual being. You're going to be like a drone zombie. And that's why I call people calcified zombies. And it's because they are. You're being a calcified zombie if you go along with what this programming is. They want you to be a calcified zombie. They want that crystal in your head to be calcified because they're feeding it negative intentions and fear and programming that will calcify it. And you have to do the opposite of that. You have to feed it life force and positive energy and healing intentions and tones, and you will come into your own as a spiritual being, and you will uplift others, and you will be a shining star that others want to be around and learn from. And I hope that I can, as I've decalcified and become a healthier person, heal thyself, healthy self, as I've come into my own, and at 40 years old, and I feel very good about myself as far as health and spiritual connectivity to the Creator. I'd like to share that and bestow that upon others, and I just feel like having these devices around really, really helps. Not just so much for EMF protection, but more of just activating spiritual power, spiritual essence. And so we have to remember that the intentions we put into water, we are 70% water, is going to affect those water crystals. The intentions you put into your crystals are going to affect those crystals. So play healing tones. It doesn't mean just be all light and love. It means that we shine light on the darkness, and we look at the darkness to appreciate the light. So you don't have to be this new age guru where all you do is look at, we are the creators of our reality and everything's love and light. That's not the case. They want to set up 5G in our neighborhood, so everything isn't love and light, and they're setting off, they're creating earthquakes and doing all these negative things. But we have the ability to pray and ask for protection from those things and convert that negative energy into positive. We have that ability. We are powerful. You're a transistor of consciousness, of divine consciousness. You are powerful being, and that's something to really appreciate as you start to understand it a little bit better, that you are a powerful spiritual being, and you have this essence and this energy that they siphon off you, these parasites, these non-human entities. Because they don't have that spiritual essence, they decided to go away from that a long time ago. And they hate us. They hate us. They hate us because we have that, and we are connected to the Creator. But you have to activate those powers. You can't just live like a calcified zombie and go along with the programming, because that's when they have you right where they want you. You have to peacefully non-comply with that and say, I do not consent. I'm a spiritual being, and I will convert your harmful energy, and I will live in a virtuous way. So, that's about it for today. Much love.